It's no longer possible to control the conversation. Glassdoor right up front should have proven that. So the question really is, are we going to participate or not? And the only strategy that I think is ill-considered is the old head in sand approach, right? Doesn't stop the conversation. So consider the implications of this. It used to be the internet was just some big anonymous place we surfed and searched by ourselves. But now it's different. We go into LinkedIn with 225 million other professionals, or Facebook with 1.115 million other friends. Here's the question. What percent of people do you think trust what you say when they're looking at your website, when they're listening to a salesperson pitch them, versus what they're hearing from their peers in LinkedIn, Facebook, or in real life? Well, here's the answer. It's quite a spread. You could think of it as 80-20, but it's more than that. We are now at an 8% trust level in what corporations say versus 78% of people believe what their peers are telling them. That's a tenfold gulf. So which game would you rather play? You want to keep trying to enhance our website and equip our salespeople with new PowerPoints? Or maybe could we get some of our happy customers to talk about us? Let me show you a B2B example. Very expensive product. This product, by the way, Cisco has a lot of these different examples, but this product right here is what they call telepresence. It's a $400,000 immersive video conferencing system. Now, if I'm a salesperson from Cisco and I'm in your office pitching you on this thing, I better be pretty good on my ROI argument, return on investment, right? So I'm going to try to impress you with the following statement. You know, with the old systems, you always felt like you had to visit somebody at least once in order to know them. These new systems are so good, you don't need to do that. Imagine the money you'll save. Now the problem is you're looking at Dave, your Cisco sales rep, saying, how can I tell if Dave is lying? Oh, wait a second. He's in his sales and his lips are moving, right? Paid on commission. Now, listen to the same words from one of their customers. Same exact words. Consider the different implications when it comes from one of them. So telepresence from GE.
Why Cisco telepresence was so intriguing was it allowed us to have a real-time experience globally where one can be in Fairfield and one can be in Shanghai and be able to communicate as if one is in the identical same room communicating in real time. In the old systems, you never felt like you were in the same room. You could see what somebody looked like, but you certainly didn't feel like you had a real-life experience with that person. One way to put it is this. With the old systems, you felt like you needed to visit them at least once in order to know them. With the new system, you don't need to do that.
Now, what's going through our head this time? First thought is, wow, I bet Cisco gave him a heck of a discount to do that, right? But our second thought is this. You know, he doesn't work for Cisco. His job is not to sell telepresence. In fact, if anything, his job is to protect his reputation and GE's reputation. So what's the chance that, I mean, this might not be a universal experience, but it's probably his experience. There you go. So do you really want your salespeople or your customers to do the talking? You know the neat thing about this device, whether it's Apple, Android, or for that matter, BlackBerry, Windows Mobile, we've got high-definition video cams right here now. Get out in the field. Show your products in action. Have a customer make a comment about what they've been able to achieve based on the products and services you offer. Right? And even at the beginning of the recording, hey, I'm going to use this for a testimonial on our blog. Got your permission? That okay? Right? So you record the permission right there. It doesn't have to be a formal process. If you ever want it down, just tell me. Fine, great. Now, let's talk about where you were before you were dealing with us, right? And they'll paint that 15-second picture. Now, what have you been able to achieve based on our products and services? And one last tip, avoid bright backgrounds, because if you're shooting a customer with a bright background, it looks like they're in the witness protection program. You don't need that. All right, my clock here says that it is, yeah, please, questions, yeah.
Like, I was intrigued by your peers versus...
Yeah, the 8 versus 70. I mean, doesn't that sort of resonate with all of us?
Well, I have a question.
Okay, fine.
We use this, you know, back to your earlier where the reviews.
Yeah.
You heard we were in New York here looking for restaurants, and you go on TripAdvisor, and it has 12 reviews.
Yep.
9 are 3 stars plus, and 3 are 2 stars minus.
Right.
What does that do to the, what evidence is there? So we were debating that. Does that make you think, discount the 3 that were bad? or does it give them more credit?
Okay, so let's talk about this for a second. So you picked the scenario we're all familiar with. We want a great meal, right? And so we go to TripAdvisor or more likely Yelp, but it's going to be one of those two services. And we read reviews. We read what other people say. Now, there's a couple things that I'm looking for when I'm reading those. First of all, if a restaurant has a grand total of 1 review and it's a 5-star, okay, so the guy's son wrote it, right? Clearly, they're not really participating in the world of social media. I tend to look at the most negative reviews. Actually, that's the way psychology is wired, and we try to make judgments based on the most negative. And I read some of these negative reviews, and I'm thinking, those guys are idiots, right? I mean, we all make judgments about the reviewers. And by the way, the one other thing that really influences me on Yelp, it shows how many reviews every person that wrote a review has written. And so if you're raving 5 stars or 1, and you've written 1 or 2 reviews, versus you're raving 5 stars or 1, and you've written 100 reviews, that influences my thinking. And the bottom line is that when reviews start happening, it gives us a more, as long as there's sufficient volume, that the democracy is really engaged, it gives us a more authentic view of a restaurant or company, business, whatever. There's Angie's List and all these other things. And so it's the authenticity that allows us to figure out, should we be your customer or not? And so I leave you with this example. So I had the unfortunate, well, probably most of us have experienced this, the video store by my house went, kaput. Hollywood Videos, and Blockbuster was gone long before. So I have these 2 boys that I've been alluding to, and they started saying, Dad, we got to get Netflix, we got to get Netflix. And it's like, no way am I going to be mailing DVDs back and forth, because I know what happens to the DVDs that they're responsible for. I don't want to have to buy movies I didn't intend to. And they're like, oh, Dad, come on, it streams, we don't need DVDs. It goes right to the Xbox and the Wii. So I sign up for my $8 a month. Now, I'm thinking this is pretty cool. They're seeing all these great movies on their Xbox and Wii, and I want it on my projection TV, which happens to be 2.5 floors away from my router. And so I go to Google. Remember, half of all internet traffic starts at Google. Well, not just Google, although they have 2/3 of the market, so we can pretty much ignore anyone else. By the way, number 2 search engine, YouTube, right? So that gets back to the importance of video. So I go to Google and I type 3 words. Netflix, Wi-Fi, because that's what I had, and HDMI, because that was the back of the TV. Number 1 result, a company called Roku. Roku makes a neat little box. It takes a Wi-Fi signal and puts it onto your HDMI port on your TV, so I can now stream Netflix. So I get to the Roku product page, and on the page where this company wants me to buy, they have placed 1,000 negative reviews, criticisms of their product. By the way, 10,000 positive, but like I said, I don't look at those. I knew the supposed product features. So I start reading the negative reviews. This darn product took 15 minutes to configure, not the claimed 5. All right, so that guy's a little bit slow. Number 2, that guy's a total idiot. Number 3. Now, normally, I would then go, I'm going to buy something, I'm going to go to Consumer Reports or CNET Reviews. I'm going to go around the web. But I didn't feel like I had to. I felt like I understood what Roku could and couldn't do, clicked buy. It accelerated my purchase decision. By the way, it also reduced their product return rate by 45%. So when reviews become authentic, so people can decide whether they use our product or service or that restaurant or that hotel, everybody wins. You get the right customers and you avoid the wrong customers. So I'm a big fan of the democracy in action, even when it's negative. And by the way, human psychology, 3-to-1 against us. When we're unhappy, we've got energy, we want to tell people. So I did include one slide way back on like number 6 or number 7, just to show you what one restaurant does. They've trained their servers. When somebody expresses delight, if the deck is 3-to-1 against us, somebody expresses delight, they have a little card they pull out, a card that's not in general circulation. That card says, please allow others to know about your dining experience by reviewing us on Yelp, Fodor's, 10 Best, Yahoo's Travel Guide, and I forget what the last one is. So just a request. But you know what the other thing about psychology is? We get something good, like great service, great meal, we are wired to want to reciprocate. So a simple request, no incentive, right? Sometimes that even takes away from it, just a simple request. And people are going to review the folks at the Crab House. So you'll get some 1s and 2s. Can't do anything about that. You know what? Was it Abe Lincoln who said you can't please all the people all the time? I think he said you can't fool all the people all the time, but same point. You can't keep everybody happy, but not everybody should be our customer necessarily, or our employee, right? So if there's an authentic view out there.